life, but perhaps I can give you justice in the name of our king.
Let's go. Welcome in to the MVP Fantasy Football and Sports Podcast. My name is Tyler Johnson, and with me, as always, is Ryan Elke. Ryan, I know that this past weekend, has been a event-filled weekend. You have Game of Thrones that just started up on Sunday. I know a lot of people are excited about that. I know you haven't watched it yet, and hopefully in this starting music that we have, I'm able to introduce a little bit of Game of Thrones, get everyone excited about that, and also in the Masters for golf, Tiger Woods winning it. Coming back from Molinari, that was an awesome comeback, and it's good to see Tiger Woods back on top. I think it's been about 10 years since he's won a green jacket. And then also the NBA playoffs just started up. I know our Milwaukee Bucks put a whooping and a few upsets in the NBA playoffs. So all of that exciting news. What were you watching first over this weekend?
I like the whole Tiger Woods thing. I'm not a huge golf fan, but just hearing Tiger Woods' name, you want to listen in, and I watched some of that, and I usually don't watch golf, and it was exciting. It was cool to see him win, and I think it was a big thing for the whole sports world, even if you're not a golf fan.
Yeah,
that's huge news, and it just kind of like what he's gone through, even though it might have been self-inflicted and stuff like that, of like just all the stuff in his past and how he's been struggling with injuries, and just to see him pull through and come out on top like that is, I think it's pretty cool. It's awesome,
and it's great too. It's great for the sport of golf as well. It's not golf unless Tiger Woods' name is up there, and him winning it just kind of propels the actual sport. You have a legend. We get to watch Tiger Woods. We think he's done, and he still goes out there and produces, and it's going to be fun to watch his last few tours before he's done.
When do you think he's going to be done, though? Because I was listening to stuff about that. He's only 43. I think like it depends on how his body holds up. Like, what do you think? That's like that's the driving factor, I think.
Yeah, and after a big win like this, I know he's going to try and finish out the rest of his season this year strong. But if you hit a high point like this at the end of your career, normally that's a good time where all professional athletes kind of either hang it up, or the following years are more of just kind of like a decline. It's good to see him hit this Masters in first place, and then I can kind of see it slowly dwindling away.
Yeah, like was it
kind of like that
last
high point?
Yeah, maybe it's one last hurrah, or it's a start of another maybe run. That's the interesting part. It's no one knows.
Yeah,
so it's a thing where people are going to keep an eye on, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it'll tune more eyes on the TV whenever golf's on. So this week we are doing news. We're gonna make sure we hit up about 3 or 4 news articles that just came through over the weekend. And then also we're going to do our wide receiver early rankings for 11 through 20. And these wide receiver rankings, when we get to them, me and Ryan had some conflicting people, and we're going to go over a few of those guys in detail. And this is kind of that section of wide receiver where that 1 through 10 is pretty easy to know who's going to come out on top. But the 11 through 20, and even like 11 through 25, it's a mashup of wide receivers. So we'll go over kind of that area.
You could even go 11 through 30 and be like, that's why it varies so much, and people are going to have a lot of different opinions.
Yeah, so this episode is going to have a lot of good points, and we're going to go right into the news. Our first news article is going to be Russell Wilson's new deal. And Russell Wilson just got paid. He got the 4-year, $140 million, and he now bumps up above Aaron Rodgers. He's at $35 million per year, where Aaron Rodgers is at that $35.5 million, and then it goes Matt Ryan at $30 million. So he definitely got paid, and it came down to the wire. I know that people were talking about how he's about to get traded, he's not going to make it, or they're going to franchise tag him, and then all of a sudden this deal came through. So it was at the edge of our seats, thinking he's going to get traded, and then the deal got made.
Yeah, his signing bonus was $65 million, which is the largest. That beat Aaron Rodgers by, $5.5 million?
Yeah.
Around $5.5 million. So he's going to be the highest paid player in the NFL this season, because it's like front loaded. So he's getting paid a lot of money this year.
Yeah. And the way it goes too for quarterbacks, I mean, you got Aaron Rodgers at the top, Matt Ryan, and then you got Kirk Cousins, Garoppolo, Stafford, Carr, Breeze. So looking at some of the big names that aren't in that top list, you got Andrew Luck in there. Russell Wilson was all the way down at, what was it, number 10. He's only 31 years old. So bumping all the way up to number 1, I think it was a worthwhile deal for the Seahawks to make.
I was just gonna ask you. I was gonna ask you how you felt about it, but that explains it right there. And in my opinion, I like it for the Seahawks. Russell Wilson, I believe, deserves it as well. I mean, what is he? He's proven he can win, and he's a big time quarterback. And for Seattle, like if they chose not to pay him, that would have been a big mistake. I guess it depends on what they could have received in trade value, but you're not going to find another Russell Wilson.
And as he's come into the league, he's done nothing but good things for Seattle. And I remember the bad days of Seattle where they were putting up losing records. They have not had a losing record since they've been under Russell Wilson's been under QB. Yep. I mean, since 2012 all the way to 2018, he has, what was it? I think there was 5. He's got 5 Pro Bowls, and he's got only one record where it was 9-7, and that was 2 years ago in 2017. So besides that, I mean, he's got 10-6 as his lowest record, and then 12-4 and 13-3, 11-5. I mean, he's had a great defense, but going into last year to go 10-6, lose Baldwin, you don't have the defense that you used to having, and they're running the ball so much more. He still put up a lot of points, so he's just a good quarterback all around, and it was a good payday.
And I don't think he's missed any games either. I know he got banged up last year and possibly the year before, but he didn't miss any games. He played through it, and
he has not missed a game.
Yeah, so I think that's another reason why he does deserve it. I mean, it's an insane number, and a lot of people are probably going to be like, "Oh, he doesn't deserve it." But the market, like what the game is going to and how much money these guys are getting and stuff like that or whatever. But in terms of NFL pay, he deserves it.
And you look at when Aaron Rodgers got that deal and everyone was up in arms saying how much money it was.
He deserves the same thing.
Yep, it just shows how it's just going to keep pushing and pushing. And,
oh, yeah. Every new deal sets the market, and that's the next guy. Even if they're mediocre, they're still going to get paid because teams, if you have a guy that's above average at QB, you don't really want to lose them. And to see like Kirk Cousins hit the market like he did the year before was really rare. And the last quarterback to hit the market that was good was Peyton Manning, but that was after Indianapolis chose to move on because of the neck injury and his age and stuff like that. But it's super rare. So.
Yeah, and you can see like the Browns are going to do this eventually with Baker, and just these young guys that are coming up, they're gonna produce, and then they're gonna get paid, and then eventually you're gonna have Baker as the next highest paid quarterback. You're gonna have Andrew Luck. It just depends on what quarterback's coming up that is coming due, going to be either traded or given a bigger contract than Russell Wilson's. So, like you said, it's just like baseball. It constantly one up every single person, every single year.
And the two guys on the bubble right now are like Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston because they're due for big deals after this season, and this is their year to prove if they're worth it or not. I don't think Mariota is because he's like a walking injury waiting to happen. He's got talent, but he just never put it all together. And Winston, jury's still out on him too. It matter. I think for him. It's all about maturity.
Yeah, and that'll come.
He has the talent to be a franchise quarterback, but it's about the maturity level.
And we'll see going into the season. And when we talk about wide receivers, we'll talk about them as well. So the next
all over the board. Winston could have a big year.
We'll be talking about another one in our wide receiver. So. Our next news article here is the Patriots. They went out and got Demaryius Thomas, and I don't have the actual deal that they got for him. But Demaryius Thomas, he's a big name. He's getting older.
Up to $6 million. 1 year up to $6 million.
And the Patriots are good at this. They're good at going out and kind of getting that older wide receiver. They're able to use him in a specific way. And getting Demaryius Thomas, he's not going to be coming in there as that top wide receiver, but they needed the help. They had Josh Gordon. I think they still have Josh Gordon, but they're going to see what if he even plays or not. They just lost Gronkowski. He's going to be an opening for him.
They lost,
and
Chris
then
Hogan.
Also, yep, I was about to say Chris Hogan's gone. He'll be another opening for him. So these targets are gone, and really Demaryius Thomas could get some jump balls or some open looks. So
they're gonna use him to his strengths, and if there's any team that could resurrect and get some stuff and get some good play out of him, it would be the Patriots because they have a knack for that. They do it consistently. So I mean,
and even though he's coming off of injury,
I think he's gonna do his thing.
Yeah, and him coming off injury, the Patriots are good at preserving players. They're not going to go out there and all of a sudden have him cutting like crazy. I can see them doing a lot of throw-up balls, a lot of fade. It just using him to his strengths, and then you have Edelman that it's going to benefit Edelman as well. So
yep. Well, I think they needed to sign someone opposite of Edelman. They needed to get somebody in there.
Yeah, and then moving on to the last one that I have is Dalvin Cook, where the coach was talking about giving him more rushing attempts into the next year. And looking at what he has, he went in as playing 10 games, only 133 attempts. And I was just looking at the guys that are above him in attempts having fewer games. A lot of the guys had 4 fewer games, but more attempts. And it was insane.
I'm pretty sure that's why they fired their offensive coordinator almost like closer to the end of the year because of that reason. They wanted to give Dalvin Cook the rock. And you saw what happened after he did get fired. Was it DeFilippo, I think his name was? And he just was past happy. And once he left, once they got rid of him, he's not a bad coach, but just didn't work out for them. And once he left, Dalvin Cook, he shined. And in fantasy football wise too, all the people that had him, I feel they benefited, especially in the playoffs, fantasy playoffs. He did pretty well.
Yeah, he definitely picked it up in the fantasy playoffs. I remember that I had him running in there, and I think you did too.
Yep, I had him on the championship, one of my championship teams, and he put up big numbers. I think it was 20 plus in the Super Bowl for fantasy.
So him being at 133 with 10 games, I can see him kind of up by the Marlon Mack area where you'll get close to 200, and I think that's a good number for him. I think right around 200, maybe even higher than that. Maybe you jump him up to looking into last year. I'm trying to find somebody that's a little bit closer to him. Maybe like Derrick Henry ended up at 215 through 12 games. So it's just surprising because you see like 6 games started, Gus Edwards had 137 attempts, which was more than him. And
wow.
then
I didn't even know that. Okay.
Yeah, and just looking at like some random people that are on this list, LeGarrette Blount had more, Deion Lewis, Frank Gore, Tevin Coleman.
LeGarrette Blount, that name pisses me off.
Yeah.
Patricia does not know how to use their running backs, and like just because he has a bromance with him or whatever you want to call it, I don't know. But he should not have been getting the rock that much. I'm sorry. They had Kerryon Johnson over there. He should have been the main ball carrier.
Yeah,
but he continued to give it to Blount.
And then just a last note on Dalvin Cook is he's had injuries in his last 2 seasons, his only 2 seasons. So running him more, you just got to make sure that he's up for it.
Yep.
And that would just be the kind of hesitant. I love the feeling. I love when coach speak is giving a running back more rushing attempts, but you have to look at the player and if they're up to it. I mean, I was thinking last year McCaffrey when they were talking about how he's going to be getting a crazy load of attempts, and to me it's like, oh, he's kind of a small guy, but he's never really showed a history of injury, and he killed it. So
I was worried about him, and that's why I passed on him, even on good value in the second round. I still passed on him, and probably should not have done that. But that was the thing, though. I was worried about the injuries and how was he going to hold up to 30 touches a game. I just felt like that was a pretty insane number for him. But hey, he proved it. He did his thing in the past season, and he's a top 5 player now. So
yep. And so yeah, just using him as a comparison, Dalvin Cook's going in a little banged up every year. I don't see him surviving the amount of touches that it sounds like Coach Speak is saying. So I'll stay away from him unless he drops in value and then he's worth picking up. But I don't foresee him playing a full 16.
I'm with you on
season.
that. I think I will take him depending on the value.
It would have to be end of second, beginning of third for me to even think about him.
I think I would go. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Well, yeah, I'll go with that. End of second, beginning of third round. If he's there, I'm gonna give him a good, solid look.
Yeah,
and go from there.
Any other news that you had, Ryan, that you wanted to touch on?
Oh, I do. I got the Adam Thielen extension.
Okay.
he got the 4 years, $64 million extension, and it's I guess it's a maximum value of 73 million. There's some incentives in there, so that gives the Vikings a nice foundation of players they're gonna have there. So that they're not gonna have any cap room for future years, but they already have a nice foundation built. They just re-signed Diggs. What, last year was it?
Mm-hmm.
It's like 5 years, 60 or 70 million. So they got their two big money receivers. They got Dalvin Cook for a couple more years under the rookie contract. They got huge money to Cousins. So they have, and on defense, they got their mainstays. They got Daniel Hunter, Linval Joseph, and Anthony Barr, I'm pretty sure, all locked up. So those are all key contributors. So the foundation for the Vikings is there. So
Yeah.
I feel it's a good signing. You can't just let someone like Adam Thielen walk. He has good chemistry with Cousins. He's the slot receiver there, and he does work in the slot. So it's a guy you can't just let him walk. He fits the offense very well.
And we'll be talking about Thielen more when we get to our 11 through 20. But Thielen, I think it just shows when you go to pay or give someone an extension on their contract, it only shows that you have confidence in them and that you are going to use them in the long run. And I think Thielen last season, how he fell off, is going to be a little bitter to some people, but they've already saw the flashes of what Thielen can do. And I think that them giving him more money to stick around is incentive for us to see better games in the future. And maybe they take away from that first part, but then make him more of that crossing receiver that they used him. And all of a sudden he is way more consistent. And it's weird to think that way because of how good his beginning was, but having more of a consistent season, I feel like that is going to be the site for Adam Thielen.
I would rather have him have a consistent season than what he did last year, where he was literally a top receiver for half the year and then not even top 10 probably. You don't want that in fantasy. I'd rather have the consistency.
So let's just jump right into it. Our consensus for our top 10, Adam Thielen already comes in at number 11, so we'll just kind of continue off of that. And Thielen last year came in at number 5 for receptions. He caught a 73% catch rate. He was just dominant. And it's hard, and like we said, it's hard to think that way because of how he burned people at the end of the season. But when he started off so hot, you needed to know that it's possible it was going to come to a crashing halt. And like the person that had him last year, I was telling him to trade him because of the massive value you could have got for him.
Yeah, I bought him. I actually didn't have to give up a whole bunch, so it was a wash.
Yeah, and he's a great player, and I would be happy to have him probably as my number 1. Same as like last year, the way he started off. I would like to have him, and if he was my number 1 and I had 2 good running backs, I would feel pretty happy about that.
I would love that scenario. That's a good scenario. I'll take that all day.
So, looking at the Vikings, they have Thielen on top last year, 1,300 yards, and then he had Diggs at 1,000 yards. Diggs played 2 fewer games, but he wasn't catching that 1,300. And then they have Rudolph and Dalvin Cook. They have no number 3 wide receiver that you really have to worry about. So having those 2 guys, it's kind of like the Rams, where you have that 1-2 punch, and really any of these 2 receivers could end up above each other. But I just see Thielen as the more consistent, more targets. So
I agree with you on that.
So then moving into our number, it was a tie between Adam Thielen and T.Y. Hilton. I had T.Y. Hilton as my 11, and Adam Thielen was our consensus 12, but Ryan had T.Y. at 13. So T.Y. Hilton is a pretty consistent wide receiver, especially when you have a healthy Andrew Luck on your side. I don't think you can lose having T.Y. Hilton, but I don't see him as wanting him as my number 1 like I would with like Thielen.
Now, if he's healthy, I wouldn't. If he was guaranteed to stay healthy, T.Y. Hilton wouldn't be a bad number 1 at all. I would take him. But that's the thing. It's if he has an injury, it slows him down big time because he's not that huge PPR guy. He's the 4 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown kind of guy, which some people might stay away from him for that reason.
Yeah,
but I feel as like my number 2. I'll take him as like my number 2 wide receiver, depending on what my RBs are, and to have him as like the blow up kind of guy. And even on his bad games, he's gonna probably give you around 10.
Yeah, and his reception total wasn't that high. It was at 76 on 120 targets, and that just shows when you come out with almost 1,300 yards that you're that deep threat. You're the big play guy. You're that Tyreek Hill, and some games you're gonna produce and you're gonna put up some huge numbers and win a person a week because you have Ty as your number 2, number 3 wide receiver. And some games you're going to go by the wayside. You need to have...
And put up 6 points, and hopefully the rest of your team can pick that up. But the days that he blows up, you're in great shape.
Yeah, and I really like T.Y. Hilton just because there isn't much on that team that's going to take away from those receptions. And I can see them going up as the healthy luck goes into a second healthy season, has Hilton healthy, and hopefully they can finish the whole season together, and you see a huge season out of Hilton. So,
well, they might have a run game now too, which could open up the pass even more. So, there's some question marks, but T.Y. Hilton's, I would say he's more safe than not.
Yeah. So then that takes us to kind of Ryan's favorite. Ryan has Amari Cooper at his 11 spot.
I love Amari Cooper.
That drops Amari Cooper to our consensus 13. And this young receiver just going over to Dallas. Talk to me about what you think about Amari Cooper.
Well, he flashed it last year. I was talking to you before the show, and you were kind of making fun of me about it, but I truly believe this guy could be a top 5 receiver in fantasy.
Okay.
He flashed it at the end of the year. You saw that in the fantasy playoffs. He won leagues. He won big times in fantasy. He showed out. Dak Prescott, I know he's not known for throwing the ball because I got Zeke, but he is the main guy on offense in the pass game. So he's going to get his numbers, and I think with the whole offseason to work, he's only going to get better, and he already showed what he can do. So imagine if he puts that all together and has that for a season.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing is that you have Dak throwing to Cooper, and then you look at all these 1 through 10, and there's not a famous Hall of Fame quarterback throwing to him. So Amari Cooper, though, he put up good numbers.
I feel like that's why he's in the 11 through 20 though, because of the quarterback throwing to him. So what if he had one of those big name QBs thrown to him? What would you do with them though? Like where would you put him? I mean, probably top 7, right? If you had one of them nice quarterbacks.
With Cooper's talent, he's a fantastic wide receiver. I know he's dropped quite a few balls in the past.
Yeah, he's had the dropsies. I feel like he corrected that last year with Dallas.
I'd put him maybe between 8 and 10, and then see how he would produce. But going to Dallas, he had 9 games in Dallas. He put up 725 yards on 53 receptions. So if you give him 7 more games, I could see him going up to that low 1,000 range, and it's going to be good for Amari Cooper. I'm wondering about his consistency, though, because we all know him as that boomer bust. He had that just dominant season when he first came in the league, 83 receptions, 1,100 yards. I could see him doing that again on Dallas, but then I could also see him with Dak Prescott that not putting up those huge numbers and having a dud. So he to me, he seems a little too hit or miss still, and I'd want to see a full season in Dallas before I could rank him any higher.
Fair enough. I mean, that's going to be – I feel there's going to be a lot of people thinking that same way, how you just broke that down.
And he doesn't really have a number 2 there. I mean, Beasley's gone. They got Cobb, and then you have Zeke. Zeke's putting up some receptions finally, but that's about it. I think they have Michael Gallup and
Jason
Allen Hurns. So, yeah, that's true. Jason Witten coming back.
I'm just kidding. He's done.
So Amari Cooper at 13. Moving on to 14. It's kind of a hard person to judge because he used to be great, and injury hit him last year. Injury hit his quarterback. It's A.J. Green. And A.J. Green...
A lot of factors with A.J. Green. A lot of factors.
And going through that injury, and then... I don't know. It's hard to judge A.J. Green. I wanted to put him lower just because I have a feeling that lingering injury is going to turn him into more of like a I don't want to go as low as Demaryius Thomas, but just that big guy that's going to be a little bit slower.
Comparison, man. It's not. I could see it happening. I feel what limits A.J. Green besides those nagging injuries and stuff like that, is the QB play.
Yeah.
He has the most targets of like uncatchable balls of any receiver, I'm pretty sure. So that hurts a lot too. I want AJ Green to get traded, but I don't know if it's going to happen.
And now that you have the emerge Tyler Boyd, it could take away some targets from AJ Green just to keep him more healthy and be more of a threat. And Andy Dalton, I mean, he's okay. He's going to be an okay streamer again this year, but how much can you put on the shoulders of Andy Dalton to help out an injured AJ Green? I mean,
I just don't trust the guy. I don't trust Dalton at all. I don't think he's.
I guess
really
the comparison.
anything.
I guess the comparison I'm trying to make is last year AJ Green came in healthy with an healthy Andy Dalton, and we still had AJ Green ranked at like the low 2 second round.
Yeah, he was mid to late second round.
Now you have a banged up Andy Dalton, a banged up AJ Green. How much more can you expect out of him? So I'm going to put him down in my ranking. He might even drop further. Haven't heard much. So we have AJ Green at the 14 spot.
Talent, like he's really talented. He's a super talented receiver. So that's just going to keep him in this 11 to 20 no matter what.
And he'll probably be a guy that I look at, but I'm going to let somebody else draft him earlier. And for this round, it's kind of going to be the definition of the 11 through 20 is letting other people grab these picks, because I've already grabbed, like Ryan's strategy, I've already grabbed the 2 wide receivers, and this is kind of like the prime pickings for your running back, tight end, if you're going tight end route. But you want to kind of look past some of these later guys and then pick up. There's some gems down there that we'll mention later on. But
yeah, there's some high potential guys in these 11 through 20, 25-ish, and AJ Green, I mean, honestly, what's his ceiling? I just don't. I think there's other guys. A great example is like Kenny Galladay. I feel his ceiling is super high, and
yeah,
I would probably, like, even though I have AJ Green. On my list, actually, I have Galladay ahead of AJ Green. I was just going to say I would probably take Galladay over Green, and I just glanced at my rankings here, and I would. Like, that's literally, I have Galladay over Green.
Yeah, it gets a little bit muddy because I have Brandon Cooks above AJ Green, so we have other people above him that we would draft before AJ Green. And like I said, I'm just going to let somebody else draft him, and then we're going to move on to our number 15 consensus is Stefon Diggs. And it's always interesting because you have Thielen Diggs talk. Last year, a lot of people wanted to put Diggs above Thielen, and it didn't turn out that way. Diggs is kind of that boom. He's a very talented wide receiver, but he has another great wide receiver next to him that's also putting up the numbers. And
it's the inconsistencies that kind of hurt him.
Yep.
Talented as all hell. He can put up Antonio Brown numbers, in his prime on a stretch of games, but it's the inconsistencies where, like, he'll have like 3 catches for 30 yards or something, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah, and you look at it too. He hasn't finished the season all 16 fantasy football games. He has had 13, 14, and then last year he put up 15. So he always has that lingering issue that he plays through, and it seems to hurt his fantasy numbers. Even though his name's in the game, he always plays banged up some way or somehow. So it's nice to have him on your team because he's got that bang potential, but he also puts up about 50% games of hit or miss. So for Stefon Diggs, I think that he'd be fine as a possible wide receiver 2 on your team to your third slot. So
ideally, I would love to have Diggs in my third slot, but I mean, he's a wide receiver 2.
Yeah.
It just matters how it plays out. I mean, me personally, I don't know if I want Diggs in my wide receiver 2 slot.
Well,
because I'm a wide receiver guy, so I want my receivers like as my team leaders. Those are the guys I want to count on.
And then you think about it too, going into the year, how we were talking about Dalvin Cook wanting more. He wants to rush more. I mean, they were throwing the ball hard last year.
First half of the year.
Yep. Thielen had 153 targets, and then Diggs had 149 targets. That's a lot for 2 people. And if they're going to run the ball more, I can see Diggs even turning into more of a boomer bust each game. Seeing as Dalvin Cook is getting that 15, 20 rushes a game. It's going to take away a lot of time. And Thielen's going to be the one that I think keeps his numbers compared to Diggs that gets hurt.
Yep, I agree with that. And you got to look out for like Dalvin Cook, his injury concerns. If he does go down, Diggs and Thielen are going to be great. They're going to be guys. You're going to want them then. Like their trade value is going to go up. Their value just overall is going to go up.
Yeah. So
but you can't draft. Wondering about injuries though.
Yeah, you can think about like previous injuries and kind of go off of like the seasons before, and there's trends. But if you want to go into the season thinking that every player's fresh, it's a definite way to go about it too. So we're just trying to take a little bit of doubt away or add doubt to players, because that's how you get burnt. When you're drafting AJ Green and you just see the name AJ Green, you draft him, and then all of a sudden he's not producing and you have no idea. You got to just like look at the past, see what's going on, and injuries don't just go away. So, some players are able to get through them, but lingering injuries can really hurt your future draft. So
yeah, you definitely want to think about injuries when you're drafting, but don't draft like, oh, I'm not taking him because he's going to get hurt. Like you don't know that for sure. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. But keep it in the back of your mind and maybe drop him a couple slots and maybe let somebody else take him while you'll take the higher upside guy that has proven only to be healthy. You know what I mean? Like just be safe, especially in the first few rounds there. You don't want to take the major injury risk, but on the flip side, you can't predict injuries. So that's it's a muddy spot, It's tough to judge all that. But in my opinion, I want to go safe. That first couple rounds, I want to go safe.
Yeah, you don't want to question anything. And not questioning anything, going into our 16th wide receiver, we kind of had a tie, and we're going to give it to Kenny Golladay, somebody that slowly I'm thinking more and more about moving him up my list. I know Ryan has him all the way up at 14, and I have him at 18, so that's what brings him to 16. Kenny Golladay got into a great position when Tate left, and also Jones' injury put him as the number one wide receiver for the team.
The part is, though, about that whole thing is Golladay didn't really capitalize on it.
No, he didn't. I mean, he put up 70 receptions for 1,000 yards, and that's with wide receivers next to him on and off. I see him as being a solid right around where we have him, 16th round or 16th overall wide receiver. Possible that he jumps up to close to 10. Maybe yep. I could see him as high as like 10, but as low as
out right. I see him up there.
Yeah, so he's got a lot of talent. He runs great routes.
Good hands. He can catch. It's just a matter of like, is Stafford gonna lock on?
Yeah. If
he does, he's up for a big season.
Yeah, and Stafford is on and off. So Golladay last season, I read off his he had over 1,000 yards. So Tate being gone, that's 69 targets gone. It's probably gonna raise Marvin Jones up. He had 62 with that injury. So it's gonna be the Golladay Jones show over there, and Kerryon Johnson will get a few, but those are the only two receivers over in Detroit. So
yeah, I see them drafting. They'll probably draft a receiver pretty high.
So Golladay, somebody to look out for. Watch where he drops in drafts. Let me check and see what his draft position is. So he's going as the 18th overall. So he's 2 back from where we have him. And he is at the end of the 3rd round, I think that is. Oh, no, the highest he's ever been drafted is at the end of the 3rd. And he goes between 3rd and 5th. So getting him at 4th, 5th round.
5th. Let me get him in the 5th, man. Please.
So then that
would be my ideal situation.
So who Kenny Golladay was tied with was Brandon Cooks. And talk about a guy that's been very consistent. I had Cooks all the way up at 13, and I think Ryan had Cooks at 19. So being at that tied for 16th slot, he's 17 on our list. He's been very consistent no matter the team he's been on. He puts up those big numbers. It's hard because Woods had more receiving yards and just receptions in total. But
that's wild to me.
I think Cooks is still the higher talent. And
I'd rather have Cooks. He's the lead offense helps with him. He's a big play threat as well. Woods might be your more consistent type guy if that's what you want. I mean, around there, like at this point, Cooks is going to be like my wide receiver 3 or flex at this point, like where I'd be drafted, and because I'm going to go receivers, and then Cooks in my flex or wide receiver 3, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, and I think throughout the season he put up great numbers each week. You weren't super high like those 20 plus or like high 20 games, but then I think his floor was like right around 12 points, like 10 or 12 points. If I remember correctly, if anyone if you know any of his, I think that's how
I mean, we can't guarantee that or confirm it, but I would say that's from what I remember is it was around there. That was his floor was probably around 10.
So
which is solid.
And I would still rank Brandon Cooks above Robert Woods, even though of last year. And I would put Robert Woods kind of down in that Cooper Kupp range. So we'll see. It's an interesting offense. The Rams are going to be another high tempo. Depending on how Gurley is, they might even throw more. So
you could easily see all 3 of those Rams receivers in the top 20.
Yeah, and that's crazy to think about. When we were making our rankings, it's like, do I really want Cooks, Woods, and Kupp all in the top 20? So
it's possible, but I only have Cooks in in my 11 through 20.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I did too. I wanted to pick one guy, and then I think Woods kind of has a little regression. So
I agree on that.
So then our next guy on the list, wide receiver number 18, is Julian Edelman. Talk about a staple
PPR
of
monster.
The Patriots.
He just catches balls, man. He's good. And no Gronk, he's going to be his go-to guy. I mean, they can bring in whoever they want, Demaryius Thomas or whatever. Edelman's going to be the guy. If he can stay healthy, he's going to have a pretty good year. He's going to have a really good year.
His playoffs were insane. I know he was putting up 100-yard games every reception. He was getting all the receptions. So
him being at 18, I could easily see him like up towards like Hilton and the Cooper spot, 12 and 13. He could easily be there.
Yeah, and last year he had the suspension, so people were just holding on to him until he came back. I see him as... I
traded him right before he came back, dude. It was so dumb.
Well, and I see him as continuous success. At 12 games, he had 850 yards, so give him 4 more games. I can see him above 1,000. More receptions than T.Y. Hilton, so I think he's someone to look out for. PPR-wise, with Gronk gone, it could open up a little bit more red zone opportunities for him.
With the Tom Brady noodle arm, it's just, it all adds up. Edelman's going to be pretty good.
Yep. And we're not going to say it's possible he gets injured. So you got to keep your eye out.
He's a risk. He's a risk. That's why I think that's why part of it, why I have him down at 18.
Yeah.
I had him at 17, but our consensus is 18. Like, that's why he's down there, I feel.
Yep. And going into our number 19 pick, it's kind of like a hot guy right now, and it's Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin going into that number 2.
That's crazy to think Chris Godwin's right here. He deserves it, but just let's say before last season, who would have ever thought Chris Godwin would be at this point?
Yeah, he was a no-name going into the season. People knew about him, but it's like it's the Buccaneers.
He was a guy to like, hey, let's keep an eye on him type of guy. No one could have even guessed that he would be projected as a wide receiver 2.
Yeah,
he is.
He was second on his team, and I think the reason that me and you moved him pretty far up is he had 95 targets. You had Humphreys at 105 targets and Deshaun Jackson at 74 targets. So
he's that's up there because of the departures over there in Tampa.
179
and the
targets.
High talk of him, like they want to use him like Fitzgerald. That's just high praise. You can't. It's disrespectful to put Godwin in the same name as Fitzgerald unless you're not going to use him. Like you have to use him.
So 179 targets are up in the air, and I think Godwin eats up at least 20 to 30, and then you have O.J. Howard is going to be someone that we'll talk about in another episode. Howard. So you have Mike Evans, you have Chris Godwin, and you have O.J. Howard. So
you got to get a piece of that offense. You do. You just have to. You got to get one of them 3 guys on your team. They're gonna put up big numbers.
And if Chris Godwin's average draft position doesn't skyrocket, he's going to be a great value right around that let me see where he's at right now, but I would assume that he's probably around the 5th at the time of draft. Maybe he's around round 5. Let me see.
I'd say 5, 6.
Yep. He's right in between 4 and 6. So
Okay.
so that gives a pretty.
I'm not taking him in round 4.
I'll take him at 5,
Yeah,
maybe end of 5.
possibly. Depending on how your roster's filled out.
So keep an eye out for Chris Godwin. Humphries had a fantastic end to his season, and just to think if that was Godwin, I think he would be a top 10 receiver if he got the Humphries treatment at the end of the season. His fantasy points would have skyrocketed. So, big Chris Godwin fan going into next season, and I'll keep an eye out for him in draft. And that takes us to our number 20 guy, and this is more Ryan was able to pull Jarvis Landry into our 11 through 20.
Yeah, you had him a little bit outside. I had him at 18 on my rankings. Consensus is going to be 20.
And talk about another guy that's just like Chris Godwin, where he's that slot guy, number 2. He's going to be eating up a lot of those slant routes while everyone else is guarding Odell and
Njoku, high-powered run game, good quarterback. It's just everything's adding up for Landry to be a very solid player, and I have him at 20 right now, but I could very well see him jumping up in the ranks to even be a lot better.
Yeah, and you
they
look
can't
at his
focus on him now. He's going to get a lot of one-on-one coverage, and one-on-one coverage, Jarvis Landry, he's going to eat. He's going to get the targets. I just feel like that offense is going to be insane. Like that's my take on it. I know I want to temper expectations, but just name the guys off again, and you can only be excited about it. And I want a piece of that offense too. That's another one. The Bucks offense, the Browns offense. I need something out of both of them.
And Landry would be a great draft position. He's right around that 5th round as well, same as Godwin, and catching all those slant routes and having Odell over the top. I see Landry getting a few more touchdowns too. I mean, he only had 4 last year. He had 976 yards, but he had close to 150 targets. He eats up a lot of targets, which are going to go to Odell. I think he loses targets, but he gains more valuable targets, and that's going to make his receptions
coverage
go way up.
That's what's going to help. Yeah, and I feel Jarvis Landry, out of everyone down this far or even in like this area, I feel he has major upside.
Yeah, you're looking at when you make it.
He's going to produce. It's like unless he gets hurt, he's going to be there. That's the thing. He's not gonna like Kenny Galladay. He could be, 11 to 15, or I wouldn't be surprised if he was like the 30th overall receiver. Landry is the guy where I think his floor, like the worst he'll finish unless he got hurt, was like 20, 23-ish, I bet, like around there.
Yeah, and these are the guys too, like Godwin and Landry, the ones that you take that are going to be like your wide receiver in your 3rd wide receiver slot or your flex, and that's amazing to have that boomer bust guy that shows the potential of possibly being close to that top 10 mark, like 10 to 12, and you got him for a steal in like the 6th round or the 5th round. So pairing him up with a couple studs, and then picking off a few running backs. We'll go over that strategy in another episode, but having him right around that position, it'd feel nice going into the season. Even if he has a few down games, I'm still going to hang on to him because I think the upside is there. And you got to kind of pick these guys in this range for the upside. You don't pick the guys that have done it before and they're kind of on the fall. I want to pick the guys that are on the upswing that you haven't seen yet. So
that's another thing, how you just mentioned that right there. Say Landry starts the year pretty slow, like 3 games are like, and don't ship him away. That's terrible. You're literally selling so low. Wait for him to have his game, and if you don't buy it, say he has that, because the game, it's going to happen. He's going to have a huge game. It's going to happen. It's like inevitable. It's going to happen. So when it does, if you're still scared, like that's your time. Ship him then. Like just if you don't want anything to do with him, trade him away then. That's when his value is going to be recouped, and he'll recoup his value off that, and someone's going to buy him. Like if you're that worried about someone like that, that's exactly how you want to trade.
Yep. So Landry was our hot wide receiver. He's on most rankings, he's right around like 25, 26. So us having him at 20, I think it's a little bit of a hot take, and I think it could possibly even go higher than that. I think.
Well, you got guys under him: Alshon Jeffrey, Mike Williams, Tyler Boyd, DJ Moore, Tyler
Corey
Lockett,
Davis,
Calvin Ridley, Corey Davis. Corey Davis is the one maybe that I would like to shoot up the list. He's probably my 2021.
Okay,
I'd probably take him over Woods at this point, and Cooper Kupp, which is crazy. I like Corey Davis's potential. Like he's a good receiver. Just out of those guys, Landry's got to be there. That's the guy you want.
And let's touch on a couple people that we're not going to talk about. So our top 20 is set now. Let me read off our entire consensus. So starting with number 1, I'm just going to go through them. We got DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, Odell Beckham Jr., Juju Smith-Schuster. Number 7 is Tyreek Hill. Then we have Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Keenan Allen for our top 10. And then going into number 11, we have Adam Thielen, T.Y. Hilton, Amari Cooper, A.J. Green. 15 is Stephon Diggs, Kenny Galladay, Brandon Cooks, Julian Edelman, Chris Godwin, and number 20 is Jarvis Landry. Going into kind of picks that might be surprised, Cooper Kupp's not there, Robert Woods isn't there. They had great seasons, but I'm still going to draft them like I was drafting last year. I'm going to see them as they're decent players, but there's people above them that I think can.
Cooper Kupp, I think he can be pretty damn good.
He was a touchdown fiend. I remember having him on my team before I shipped him away before he got injured. He was putting up some great numbers.
Yeah, and once again, he whooped my ass on that Monday. Was it Monday Night Football or Thursday night? He started it off with 39 or 40 something. That was horrible. I lost by 5.
A few other people I wanted to touch on. You have Doug Baldwin. If he comes back healthy with the big deal with Russell Wilson, it's possible.
I like Dougie.
Also, I wanted to touch on Sammy Watkins. Interesting because
huge. Yep.
Tyreek Hill might be gone. And if Tyreek Hill's gone, Sammy Watkins becomes the one. Patrick Mahomes. What if he loses Tyreek Hill? I see Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins is coming into the season. He's always been hype. He's been a hype wide receiver. He's very talented. He's kind of slowed down. He's a slower, more possession wide receiver. So, yeah, injuries have plagued him. But being the number 1 on the Chiefs, Sammy Watkins would definitely jump up my my leaderboard. That's for sure.
Another guy, Will Fuller, keep an eye on it. It's just there's a lot of guys like Will Fuller. Yeah. Can he stay healthy? If he remains healthy, he's gonna be really good.
And then there was a big name that kind of stepped up last year in the playoffs was Robbie Anderson, and I know that he was.
It's because Sam Darnold finally decided to start throwing the ball deep.
Yeah, and Robbie Anderson helped a lot of people win their Super Bowls for their fantasy league.
Yeah, he did. There's a lot of guys on this list. Golden Tate, he's like the main weapon besides Barkley over in New York. He's gonna get a lot of passes thrown to him.
Who else do we have? I kind of want to touch on a couple more.
Marvin Jones, Geronimo Allison. Like, there's a lot of names that can definitely shoot up the board here.
And then you got to think about Joe Flacco going over to the Broncos. Emmanuel Sanders. So look at all these guys that we're naming off, and they're going to be late in the draft. You want to pick up a few of these guys that have that potential, and people are overlooking them. So people are going to be picking up Sutton, and I'm going to wait those rounds and just grab Sanders because I think that, like I said, a lot of these people down in these ranks, going down closer to like wide receiver 50, there's still people in there worthwhile to have on your team. So stashing those guys away, we'll have a whole section on who we're stashing and who we're looking for in the later rounds. So make sure you stick around with that. Anyone else you wanted to name off, Ryan, before we cap the show off?
Even like Allen Robinson, we didn't even talk about him. I think he can only improve on his year last year.
Yeah, with Mitchell Trubisky, had like a little bit of a stunt in the middle of the season where he just went off. And if we can get somewhat consistent QB play for the Bears, Allen Robinson is a high talent as well. He's kind of like Amari Cooper where he's stuck in a rough situation that could pick up, but they both have what I would call poor quarterbacks that are keeping them out of the top 10.
A lot of talented guys over here, and like look at Marquez Valdez-Scantling is like the 62nd overall receiver.
Oh my God!
That guy, he could be a top 25 guy.
Yeah, talk about stashing somebody. Talk about your back pocket. He'll be an ace up the sleeve for somebody because of it. You look at these top top quarterbacks. You got like Matt Ryan, you got Drew Brees.
What about As mentioned, Drew Brees, Traquan Smith, another guy. Yeah. Where's he at? I'm trying to
look at their number 2s.
4-ish right now. That's like he's got to be better than that. He's going to be.
Yeah. So you look for those wide receiver 2s on a great quarterback team. I mean, you pick out that guy in the Steelers. Who's going to be the number 2 in the Steelers? It always ends up being
Washington
somebody.
Maybe, or like he's another guy. He could emerge, and he's gonna, whoever the second receiver is in Pittsburgh is gonna produce. Yeah. So you can automatically bump them up. But that's the thing, you just don't know who it's gonna be.
So that's going to do it for our show. We appreciate everybody sticking around, listening to our 11 through 20 wide receivers, and kind of going a little bit deeper. And we'll have a full episode talking about our sleepers, who we think is going to be close to that 50-plus range, who keep a little star next to. Come draft day, they're going to be great on your bench, ready to either
potentially win your league, like the guys you want to have at the end of the year that could break out.
Or the guys that are going to, they're going to have that 1 or 2 good games, and if you get it early in the season, put them in a package deal with somebody, trade them away. That's how you're going to get great trades.
Upgrade your roster. Yep.
So those are going to be exciting. I can't wait to hear your take, because Ryan's a trade god, and we're going to go over a whole trade episode. So more when the season comes.
I love me some trading. That's my favorite part.
Make sure you go on to iTunes and YouTube and like the videos, comment, but make sure you're subscribing and you're leaving that 5-star review. We're on iTunes now. We got Spotify, YouTube. Just look in the show notes. I have everything pinned. And then it also goes for our Twitch when we start live streaming. And then also our Twitter. I have everything down below. Make sure you click on it. Make sure you go and follow us. And we're going to be getting very active as the season comes closer. And all I can say is go Bucks, because I know they're playing right now, and they're going to be doing great through this playoff. Anything else you want to say before we take off, Ryan?
What about the Brewers? We're Wisconsin guys, and they're not the most known teams, but Brewers are having a pretty solid start to the year. The Bucks are they have the best record in the league. A lot of excitement coming out of Wisconsin, which is pretty rare for us. So we're pretty excited about it.
It's strange
I think we deserve it. Us Wisconsinites deserve it.
It's strange to have the Packers as not the best.
It is the
third
best team in the state. I kind of like it, to be honest with you. So
me too. It switches it up. So thank you everybody for stopping in, and we will catch you back here next week when we do the top 10 running back rankings, and we'll go all the way to 20 on the running backs as well. So I'm excited for that.
I'm excited for that.
All right, catch you later.